I need to say that I am not a medical doctor. I am not prescribing for you. It is your constitutional right to do whatever you like. But I need to make very clear that I'm not here to tell you that this is in place of medical help. In no way. We are here to teach you integrative methods and methods that can be used to go and help the body to rebuild. And I did have a sheet that had all that written out, and it disappeared off the face of the earth. Anyway, it's in my sheet. But anyway, so welcome this evening. Because I would like to talk to you about some of the things that we know that charcoal does for the body. Yes, as Dr. Steve just mentioned, that he used it when he had possibly food poisoning, because that is something that you could do. In the flyer that was announcing tonight's meeting, Agatha Thrash was not given credit. She is a medical doctor, and she is the one who made the statement that she would never go on an island without anything but, in other words, if she had nothing else to take with her for survival, she would make sure that she had some charcoal with her. Because, and so that is her quote. I don't want to take credit for that. I'm at fault that I did not put her name on the bottom of that. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit what charcoal does. First of all, you can go online to charcoalremedies.com, and there's 90-some pages of information. I'm going to try and compile it during the next 45 minutes to tell you some of the things about it. But charcoalremedies.com is a book that is filled with story after story as to how charcoal can be used. But the big interesting thing is that our organization, or World Health Organization, has actually sanctioned charcoal to be something that we use for emergencies, and it's only since 2007 that they actually affirmed that charcoal could be used as an emergency remedy for almost, I'm going to say almost anything. The big thing is that understanding what charcoal does, they do not know its mechanism of action. In fact, the head of the, not the CDC, but it's the World Health Assembly, has urged all member countries to promote the use of traditional, harmless, efficient, and scientifically proven remedies, and it's in Resolution 4434. Charcoal is just such a remedy. In other words, they found out that overseas workers, when they were in other countries where they didn't have pure water, first of all, did you ever stop to realize what our medical community uses to go and to do kidney dialysis? They use charcoal to go and, do you know what they use when they do liver dialysis? They use charcoal. So that charcoal is actually something that is used in many ways in our conventional medicine, but we want to talk about tonight how we can do it at home, so that it is something that actually makes a difference. And what I'm trying to do is encourage you to go, now you can go to charcoalremedies.com. This comes from Bulk Herb Store, which is bulkherbstore.com, which is activated charcoal, so that you can get this. And what I recommend tonight is that you would go and take some charcoal, and it is messy, that's true. But take a couple tablespoons of charcoal, put it in a jar of water, and select the purest water that you know. Hopefully it's not with chlorine or fluoride in it. And put this and set this on a shelf somewhere, because this is something that is ready for an emergency. In other words, understanding that having charcoal ready to be drunk, they found out that even if you went to the emergency room, if there was a poison, that's the biggest thing with poisoning in children and in adults, whether it's an overdose, whether it is a poison that a child has gotten underneath a cupboard and got some cleaning solution or pesticide or whatever to drink, that you would think that you can take this in and you can drink this and actually deactivate the effects of that toxin. Now, you do not want to do it if it's a petroleum-based material. But the thing is, this is until you can get further help, you could save many a life by using charcoal water as something that could be drunk. And the biggest thing is, the more the better. The only time you would never give charcoal is if the person was already unconscious, so that you would not try to get them to drink anything. The big thing is that we are now learning that there's thousands, I didn't have any comprehension that there's that many thousands of people that go to ERs on a daily, throughout our country, that go to ERs either because they got too much medication or an interaction of a medication, and they certainly can go to the ER. I'm not telling you not to go, but you can learn to know that charcoal would actually save a life if you could drink that right away, get that person to drink some right away. It makes that much of a difference, because if it's done within the hour of consumption of either the overdose or whatever, you have such a big chance of it working and of it helping to save that person's life. So poison, intentional poisoning, or attempted suicide, or children that get into accidental poisoning. They say that a child accidentally is poisoned every half hour in the United States, and that a child under the age of 6 swallowing a toxic substance reported to poison control centers in 1998, they found out that it represented 25% of all such incidents. So that cleaning products, the one thing that they found that kids get a hold of is Tylenol, and Tylenol is very dangerous. It's even dangerous for you as adults. You know that our government has the FDA in 2015, I didn't bring that paper with me, in 2015 the FDA put out a warning that it causes strokes, it causes heart attacks, and that this is something that is very dangerous. You need to know that for some people it actually affects their liver quite adversely. But anyway, and if you want that documentation, let me know. I'll be happy to get that documentation for you, because it was directly from the FDA in 2015, July of 2015. Okay, so when we have charcoal, I tried to go and think of, we recently had someone who had a brown recluse spider bite. We did not use charcoal in that instance. We used clay, and the person was monitored by their medical doctor, but they also came out without a problem and without any part of their body that needed to be incised or cut away. It's pretty amazing some of the things that have happened from poisonous bites. But making a charcoal paste, of taking some water and putting some charcoal in and making a paste and putting that on a bite or a sting, is something that you can put this, yes, it's very black, but you can put this on a bite or a sting and keep it moist. And it is something that is very beneficial. You can often have the area then to not be as inflamed in a very short time. Remember, yes, I'm a homeopath, and we like to think of homeopathic remedies. The homeopathic remedy when you have a bite or a sting is ledum, L-E-D-U-M. That's a remedy that can be taken underneath your tongue, and it is something that is so beneficial to the body in order to go and support how this sting, which is a puncture wound, and ledum, and the other remedy is hypericum. You don't need both, one or the other. Hypericum is H-Y-P-E-R-I-C-U-M. Hypericum is, we think of for nerve injury, but hypericum and ledum both are, each one of those can actually take the place of tetanus, and that is written in the Materia Medica. Okay, so when we think of charcoal as being something that is used as a poultice, I was just telling Dr. Joe that we did something I read about, and we've done something that we will see what the results are. But the big thing that has happened is that this person is told that they are needing to go on kidney dialysis. And so what we've done is something that is taking things, this is paper towels. I'm sorry, I don't stay at one spot. This is paper towels, and then I put charcoal powder in here. And this charcoal powder ends up being something that you could put on as a poultice. Now, if you wanted a poultice, I just had someone over the last few days put a poultice on their finger, and in order to get to hold it there, we soaked some flaxseed and mixed the flaxseed in with the poultice, ground flaxseed, and it made it so that it was a little bit more, had more body to it to hold fast. But back to this person that's supposed to go on dialysis. I said, we're going to try something. It will not hurt and will not interfere with anything that your medical doctor is doing for you right now, but we're going to make a very large poultice, and we're going to put it across the back. And we're going to do this at nighttime. We're going to put this poultice across the back. The best is, I wouldn't use paper towels then. I would use some old cotton sheets. I would cut cotton sheets up and put the poultice, put the charcoal and water on that piece of cotton. Cotton flannel would work also, but do not use synthetic or polyesters, please. So we bound this on the person. In other words, putting either saran wrap, or we actually took another part of a sheet and put it around this person. And we did this every night. Now, we've done it for a week. And every morning when this person wakes up, and we can't explain why, except that the blood chemistry is starting to get better. And when they take the poultice off in the morning, there's a smell of urine. Now, urine doesn't come out your skin. You don't think so. But anyway, this person's kidneys appear to be functioning better. Now, there's stories to that effect in this book that I just showed you, charcoalremedies.com, because this is filled with stories by medical doctors who have used it in the field for many, many reasons. And so the other thing is that you can have a horse, you can have a dog, a cat. In fact, I have someone who has a cat that they tried to, and I said, this got to be a circus. Because first of all, charcoal is messy. And they're going to try and they wanted to make something for the cat's paw. Well, the funny thing is, now it might be the breed of cat, I don't know. I have no idea there. I don't have experience with cats. I'm not a vet. But anyway, she went and made a poultice of the charcoal and put a baggie on the cat's paw, and the cat left it on. So it must have felt okay to the cat. And the cat left on, but anyway, the paw there was something that happened to its claw that was all infected. And she said within 24 hours of she put it on when the cat, in the evening time, till next morning, she said all the infection appeared that it was so much less. Then the next day she did it again, and she said after that the cat didn't want it on, which meant that the cat was fine. And so the cat didn't walk around holding its paw up in the air. But for animals, this can be used for all kinds of animals as well. And the beautiful part is that this is not, you can't give somebody too much of it or too much toxicity. Or that there's any toxicity from it. There isn't. The big thing is understanding that in the Academy of Pediatrics, the American Board of Applied Toxicology and the Canadian Association of Poison Control Centers have endorsed the recommendations, and it was only in 2003 that the Academy of Pediatrics stopped recommending the use of, and that was Ipecac, and said that charcoal would be better. So that Ipecac, most of you remember Ipecac, that if you had poison, Ipecac would make you throw up. Well, that's not always the best thing to do. However, some people who use charcoal may throw up, but the big thing is that it neutralizes the poison. See, in homeopathy, I use a remedy called Carbo-Veg. Carbo-Veg, it says right here, for nausea, heartburn, or gas. Telling somebody who's going for surgery that if they're having abdominal surgery of any kind or gynecological surgery, and they go for surgery, their 2 last meals before they go because remember, they're going to do without food then the night before. But those last 2 meals, if they would take some charcoal with their meals, they will not have gas in their tummy when they wake up from the surgery. Because that's one of the big things, is that the person has this bloated up gas feeling, and the gas doesn't want to move sometimes. But Carbo-Veg is the homeopathic form. Now they can drink some charcoal water or the slurry. We say the slurry is just if you have charcoal, I don't recommend. Yes, you can use hardwood, and you can burn hardwood very slow. If you were outside and you wanted to make a bonfire, you would take hardwood and put it, and then you put a piece of tin on top of that when the wood is burning. Now you put a piece of tin on top, and then you can put a hill of ground on top of that tin, and it will hold the heat down there so that the wood does not burn up totally, but that you have charred wood. And yes, you could chop that up with a hammer. Then you can chop it up even further, and then you can put it in your blender and make it. No, it's so much easier to get yourself some activated charcoal, so you don't need to go through all that. But if you were out in the middle of the wilderness, you'd be very happy to know that you can make a remedy that is actually, because when we don't have pure water, or when we don't have pure things, now they even make such things. This is My Magic Mud, mymagicmud.com. This is a toothpaste, and it's activated charcoal, coconut oil, and bentonite clay. That's pretty cool. mymagicmud.com. It says that it has no foaming agents, no fluoride, no glycerin, no toxic chemicals, no cruelty, no triglyceride, GMO, and no gluten, so that it's something that is all certified with some essential oils. It has peppermint flavor. But anyway, mymagicmud.com. Okay, I already told you about the bulkherbstore.com also is something, so that when you go through your book tonight and see the piece of information, you're going to see some of those things and what it has to tell you about those. But in other words, this thing, they found out with another common factor that is happening when people go to ERs. They found that Prozac was one of the first antidepressants that is often overdosed on, and it's something that charcoal is able to antidote that overdose majorly and save that person's life, because you already know that it is fluoride. Okay, so it is certainly a universal antidote. They've actually proven that this is something that is able to go and help in getting the children, young children. Every year children are dying not just from the chemicals that they could be swallowing, but also from such things as salt and iron. There actually is such a thing as an overdose of salt. We usually tell you to use good real salt or Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, which are wonderful things. But yes, you can get too much of any one thing. But charcoal is something that has a large dose of it, is something that really can. In the Journal of Toxicology, Clinical Toxicology, it tells you how aspirin is another thing that kids take as too much. And it's something that can be very greatly overdosed. And you know that if you go to FDAgov.gov, thank you. If you go to there and look up aspirin, it tells you never to take it unless you've actually had a heart attack. Okay, so that, because it's not at all, we seem to think that these things are magic buttons, and they're not always. So, what we're going to do, for a beginner who has never used charcoal because somebody has a bellyache or somebody has a headache, maybe, and a person doesn't feel good, so they've never mixed charcoal, one of the things they can do is get a pan of water or a bucket of water and put in 6 inches of water, put your feet into the water, but put some charcoal with it, because it will actually help the headache and the tummy ache. Yes, But yes, you can drink some of the charcoal. You could drink a couple ounces of this and find out, or you could take some charcoal tablets. But for the beginner, the person who has never used charcoal, you might be better off to go and purchase some charcoal capsules or some charcoal tablets, because those would be easier and less messy for you to hand in the beginning. But charcoal is something that is easy to go and use in that way. What questions would you like to ask?
Is there any special brand that you would recommend if you bought the capsules?
No. Activated charcoal is pretty standardized as far as I know. And that's a good question, though, because many times I do have a response on that, but I don't on activated charcoal. It's pretty standardized. And so that it should be, no matter what brand name you get, you should be fine.
Can you purchase those just online, or can you buy them locally somewhere?
You should be able to get them in your drugstore, but you usually will find them in a health food store to be sure. But your drugstore should have them. I've had some experiences. I had one experience in Oklahoma where a family called with a problem, and I said, please go to a local drugstore, they'll have charcoal. They went to 3 and they had no charcoal at any one of them. So from now on, they certainly kept the charcoal on hand, because somebody had swallowed some toxic material and they didn't have their kit. They didn't have some, because I recommend having a bag of charcoal powder. Absolutely, it's a necessity. It's not expensive, and it's something, or have a jar of charcoal tablets or capsules on hand, always. They won't go out of date. It's something that won't spoil, but it's something that is really very, very, you imagine, they're figuring out that now this is from years ago, they're figuring out that how many millions of dollars would be saved from people having to be in an intensive care unit because of poisoning. And if they would have been given some charcoal, that it would be that simple to go and help. So that you can take somebody who has a toothache, and Dr. Jeff Hartman, when he was here last spring and spoke to us about teeth, he certainly is an expert in that. But when you want a home remedy, this is what we're doing is home remedies till you get some more expert help from your dentist. Take a tea bag and empty the tea bag of the tea that's in the tea bag and put some charcoal in there. And then put the charcoal tea bag around right outside the tooth that is bothering you. And it really will help a great deal, especially if it's an abscess. It'll make the bubble go away. So that charcoal, because remember, charcoal has the ability to dissipate the toxins. Now, I'm not inferring that you can't go to your dentist, by no means, but sometimes I don't think your dentist likes if you call at 3 a.m., and charcoal would be a much easier way to go and address the pain. Okay, you can make a jelly poultice. I have the different recipes in your handout for the jelly poultice and for the dry poultices. I have also the universal emergency numbers to call for further help, because this is not implying that you don't need to get further help. So charcoal internally, how do you get something like this internal for little kids and for some adults? Some adults are as sneaky, if we want to use that word, as children might be, because charcoal is gritty and it is something, it doesn't really have a taste except that it's black. Now, if you go and mix it for a child, mix it with some almond butter, or mix it with, you could mix it, I would tell you to mix it with some unsweetened apple butter. That'd be a way that they could eat it, because the issue is if they ate something that was harmful or they have a really bad bellyache, until you can get further help, you want them to eat this right away. So it's important that you're not going to wait around an hour waiting for them to decide that, well, yes, maybe I'll try this. No. So whatever it takes to get them to eat it right then and there, that's important. So mixing it with, whether it's with honey, whether it's with unsweetened apple butter, or whatever you want to, I wouldn't mix it with applesauce, because it'll make the applesauce coal black. And they'll go, oh, I don't want that. But no matter what it tastes like, they don't like the looks of it. So that find something that they can eat right away, because it's so important that you're able, remember, within that hour is so important that if it's food, if it's poisoning of any kind, You want to get that charcoal into them. But it really does make a difference. So that bentonite is something, this is clay that I have here. And also you can use, I brought a bag of, I have golden flax here. But you could use the brown flax, golden flax, either one. You don't have to have one. You can put this in the blender or grind it up, and then you soak it, and it will become thick. And then you can mix that with your charcoal. I'll let you look at this if you'd like, because that makes the charcoal. And what I said about somebody who had a bite from her pet, and we are packing it with flax that's ground and soaked and mixed with charcoal, and we're wrapping it up in a piece of cotton cloth, and we're using that, and it seems to be working. And she was just checked today by her doctor again, and seems to be doing fine. Charcoal, though, can come, remember, where does charcoal come from? It can come from wood, but charcoal can also come from the cooking of bones. Bones that are ground up and cooked, that can be charcoal. It also can come from coconut. This is upgraded coconut charcoal, 100% activated, ultra-fine, fully washed. It's in a capsule, so that you could get an idea of what a charcoal capsule looks like. And yes, it makes everything black. Okay. What other questions would you like to know? So when we think of, let's think of what we do with a, by the way, we've had, yes?
Would you use it in any, like, first aid type things, like a cut or a wound or something like that? Is there any use of it then?
You could. I am not as inclined to put it on an open cut as what I would like, for example, a boil. We just did that recently with somebody. A boil that had not come to a head. We packed it with charcoal and put a cloth around to hold it on. They did that at nighttime, and then the next morning the boil broke open. Then we didn't use charcoal anymore, because then I used Hepar sulf to go and bring it out, the homeopathic remedy. But yes, it would sure bring it out. I don't think that I put it over a large open wound. What do you think, Dr. Joe? Mm-hmm.
You know, I suppose you could, if you, let's say you had a dirty wound already.
Right.
You could throw it on there and then wash it out and help it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. Thank you. But any kind of inflammation of any type. Now next month we'll have Dr. Robert Weiner here talking about painful joints and the like and what he does with them. But the thing is, learning to know that inflamed, something that is all inflamed, to pack it in a charcoal poultice and let it on for a couple of hours. Take it off, and then you can, in a few hours again, put another charcoal poultice on, keep it moist, and it will draw the inflammation out. It really does do that. It really draws anything that's swollen, hot, painful, or inflamed. And it really does. So that insect bites of any kind is certainly something that you can use charcoal on, and it really does work very well. Another thing that happened is that I had somebody who had a very high liver enzymes, and they were monitored by their medical doctor. So their alk phos and their two different liver enzymes were extremely high, and we did charcoal poultices on the liver. We did it for 2 days. That is like 2 hours each time, and then take it off, and then in a few hours go and do it again. So we did it at least 2 or 3 times in a day. But we did it for 2 days, and they went back and had more blood work done, and their liver enzymes had more than halved, so that they were not in the alarm stage anymore. When somebody has a lot of candida, or candida is your fungus, your mold, your
Candida, somebody who's trying to get away from eating all the sugar and all the flour and all of the processed foods, and now they're having die-off from the Candida. Some people can get very sick, and so if they would go while they're doing that, changing their diet and using something of a supplement to go, whether using oregano or whatever they're using, to go and kill off this excess of yeast and fungus in their body, they could use charcoal with their meal, and it will help them to antidote the die-off so that they don't get so sick as the body is doing the die-off. Also, believe it or not, we usually talk about hemorrhoids as being a problem that has to do with liver function, but you can actually make, it might again be using a small sack of cloth with charcoal in it and putting it at the rectum to sleep that way at night really makes a difference in shrinking hemorrhoids. No, it's not a cure-all, but it certainly is something that really makes a difference. Nearly any kind of digestive, stomach, and colon issue really does make a difference as to how the body can work, so that when you travel and you're traveling to some place that you're not familiar with, and you're traveling, if you're traveling out of the country to be sure, you want to know that for sure you have something like charcoal with you, and this is something that packs easily in your suitcase. But charcoal is something that when you get Monsuma's revenge, diarrhea, yes, if you have some apple pectin, I have often told for years, I told people that pack a jar of apple pectin. That's tablets that you could take 6 tablets after each loose stool, and it'll slow it down. But charcoal is even better, because charcoal can be even given as a slurry to a young child to go and that has the diarrhea. So that an adult that has the diarrhea, you can use a couple tablespoons of powder if you want, or take like 6 or 8 capsules and use that. It certainly is very, very beneficial. That certainly is something that can really help. We often say that charcoal helps the spasticity. In other words, the spasms in the intestine, the spasms in the gut from happening, because it is so absorptive of the toxins there, and it certainly does help. So that in a little baby that has diaper rash, to give them a little bit of, even if they're breastfed, give them a little bit of some charcoal water that they can drink. And yes, you're going to say that your mouth gets black, but it doesn't stain your mouth, so that if somebody was on their way to the emergency room, their mouth is not stained, that they can't be examined, so that it's very safe. But even a young child can be given that, and the diaper rash could be made better because it would change the pH in the body, and that would make a big difference. Okay. Another thing is understanding about, there's many things about animals, and the other thing that I want to, next weekend, we're going to head to St. Louis to a 10th International Medical Conference that's on fungus and parasites and dental conundrum is the name of the conference. But charcoal is something that can be used for parasites. Parasites is such a big factor. And if you heard the lecture that was this past week, was a whole week's worth of lectures on parasites. It was free online. And Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, who we hope to hear next weekend, he spoke about the parasites, and he said some very interesting things. He said that in Germany, the man who is the head parasitologist has a gag order that he's not allowed to speak about it. Am I correct on this? I think that there's a gag order that he cannot speak about it because it would scare the public to realize that there is that much parasites in our world today. Well, the big thing is there is a lot of parasites, and it really is a problem. We're not talking about that you forgot to wash your hands and this is how you got parasites. Remember, you have good ones and bad ones, and understanding more about that. We'll have to make that one night as a lecture. Maybe Dr. Steve will do that one. But anyway, this is something that we need to learn a whole lot more about, because it really is you heard of using black walnut tincture, but using charcoal is something that actually draws them out, because many times we don't realize that the parasites, and Dr. Klinghardt, he has clinics in Germany, he has clinics in England and in Washington State. And so he has an observation of, and he said geographically, here in the States, we have many more parasites than they do see in any other part of the world. So, but the thing is to use, we would actually be able to prevent many of the kinds of infections and the like in nursing homes that happen because of the fact that either because of the kind of food that's fed or because of the kind of the medications, and that's something important. If the person is on prescription medications, they do not take the charcoal at the same time that they're taking the medication. They should let 2 hours escape between taking their prescribed medications and taking the charcoal, because the charcoal will cancel the med. Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
So first, since you brought up the hospitals, what about the MRSA? Is it something that could be used in that case?
Absolutely. In fact, it has been used very successfully in hospitals out of this country for that very purpose. Yeah, but not here routinely.
The other question that I had to do with insect bites. I was curious to know about the brown recluse. If you were to get charcoal on a bite immediately, would it slow down the spread of the...
Well, the one that we just had, the gal didn't realize that she was bit, because the brown recluse really doesn't, you don't feel a bite.
Yeah.
Okay? So she didn't realize it till the next morning, and it happened to be right on her tummy. And so then she already had this necrosed area just in a matter of hours. And so what we did was we used PRID, P-R-I-D, and that is a type of a drawing salve that we use, and I used homeopathy. So we used Ledum, we used numerous remedies, we did a sequence of remedies, but she absolutely got totally free, and she has documented all this and now has given us permission to go and show her story, because she has a picture every week of how this has changed, and she's sharing that with us. Okay, any other questions? Yes? Pardon?
You said that this woman had a necrotic area where it didn't put, that didn't repair, did it?
It totally repaired. You would never know that anything happened there. There's only a small reddened area where it would have healed, but it's not red as in inflamed or anything like that. No, we have photographs of it, and she's writing her story. She wants to go and have this story known to other people, that there is ways that you can do this without having, because she had friends who had also the same kind of bite, and the one person ended up with an amputation, a small amputation, which is pretty scary. Yeah. No, she is absolutely fine, and I'll be happy to as soon as we go. So the air that we breathe, using a HEPA filter, which is charcoal filters, is something that's very important. Using this to go and purify water, to drink the water, because to drink your water is certainly something. They know now that lasers in surgical settings, that they are notorious for producing copious amounts of this noxious smoke or plume that comes from the byproduct. And if they use charcoal, they can actually pull all of this in. So that offensive odors is something that, odors of all kind, that's the other thing. So that about your question with regards to an open wound, I do know of someone who had an amputation, and the end of the amputation was having problems with it healing. And they had used numerous antibiotics, and they used a poultice of charcoal, put it on there, and it was a matter of just a couple of days that this actually healed, so that you actually can use, it certainly has been used on many open wounds as well. So that is true, but you certainly does make it black, that's for sure.